Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Nerthania, Collapsing World, which is brought to you by Board Game Bear. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run about 120 to 180 minutes. It is the year 247. After the energy impact, our world is no longer as it was. Inside our planet, an energy began to pulsate, causing the tectonic plates to break up. Suddenly, mountains began to rise from the flat plains, valleys sink into the seas, and islands emerged from the foaming tide. The lava from the rising mountains brought a new mysterious substance, tectonium. With it, animals and beasts could be subjugated to the art of war. Our tribal leaders discovered a way to redirect the tectonium in our world, so the tribes learned the art of terraforming. In Nerthania, you will become a chieftain of one of 4 different archaic tribes, which wage war against each other. You will be collecting income to invest in units, buildings, battle card upgrades, and terraforming actions. Attack adjacent areas with your battle units. Battles are solved with battle dice and battle cards. Establish military buildings to recruit stronger units, or establish hunting buildings to increase your income. Develop your battle cards to improve your fighting power. Random and player-induced terraforming happens during the game, so be on your guard. Become the greatest chief of Nerthania by conquering areas and collecting the most victory points within 6, 8, or 9 rounds. Lead your tribe and its creatures. Use the might of terraforming and become the ruler of Nerthania. So, you're going to be controlling one of 4 tribal clans. Now, you have the Steppe Warriors, the Northerners, the Jungle Maidens, and the Forest Warriors. We're going to mostly be focusing on the Forest Warriors in this preview, but just know that each of the clans has their own set of unique cards and different types of warriors and beasts that they're going to be controlling, which is really neat. Now, out on the map, you're going to see some color-coded regions, as well as a series of tokens, which are resources that you'll be able to gather through the game. And on the mountains is the only place that you can get that tectonium, that type of resource. Now, you're also going to be setting up your different clans in different regions to start with their headquarters or their base, and then there'll be some dispersion of additional areas as well. So those are the basics of this, but what's really neat about this map is that as you set it up, you'll be setting it up variably every time. So you'll draw a series of cards that will show what the water area is going to be, you'll lay out all the grasslands, and then you'll draw another series of cards to find out where those mountains are going to be. And there'll be a limited number of mountains to start, and you'll place those and swap them out for the grasslands. But just know that this world will be changing, evolving over the course of the game, and that's one of the really neat things about this game. Now, in your player area, you're going to have a player board as well as a series of cards. You have your meeples and units and cubes and all the things you're going to need. But the neat thing about the cards representing the units in the game, you're going to start with a level 1 set. And the rest of your cards, you're going to be able to upgrade to level 2 and level 3 eventually, giving your units even more power. So it just increases, like for the warriors, it just increases their abilities as you level them up. But all the different units are here for those different types of cards. They don't change out, they just level up. And on your main player board, you have a rondelle, which has 7 possible actions. Now, every round of the game, you'll be taking 4 of these, so you'll mark them off with cubes. And then you also start with 20 silver at the beginning of the game. Then you have a series of buildings. Now, built into your player board is the fact that you have the barracks, and these are the warriors that you see out here on the field. And they are going to be the key, kind of your base units, so to say, but across the top, you have level 1 buildings that you can build. So you have stables, as you imagine, riding beasts into battle, and secondly, you have the smithy, who will be building shield bearers for you, and then finally we have archers. Yes, archery, give you some ranged attacks and so forth. So those are the key level 1 buildings, but at the bottom of your board you have level 2 buildings. And these are really cool. You have the animal enclosure, which in the case of the Forest Warriors is the battle boar. And you have the stone circle. Here for the Forest Warriors, you get the tree walkers. Yeah, it's so very cool. So those level 2 buildings are something I really enjoy about this game. And they are all different for each of the different clans. They'll have different types of beasts. Then the 2 buildings on your far right of your board are going to be the economic buildings, where you can increase your hunting and your fishing to increase your silver, the main resource you're going to be spending in the game. And then finally, worth calling out is the goal cards. This is how you're going to get victory points through the game. You're going to be fulfilling the requirements of these and marking them off and so forth. But here you might occupy mountains to achieve one, or in one sector you might have units in every one of the areas in that sector. So lots of different goals that you can be going after through the course of the game as you conquer and move around and terraform this world. So depending on player count will determine how many rounds overall that you'll be playing, but in each round, each player will be taking 4 actions. Now you only get to perform 1 action on your turn. It'll move around the table. But you have the rondelle where you'll be marking off actions that you took. And you'll start at the top of this rondelle. Let's take a look at it. We'll do a brief look at these because they're pretty self-explanatory. The first one at the very top is resource collection. The key thing to know about this is the only action you can use to collect the tectonium, which is ever so precious. And then obviously you're collecting silver as the other type of resource. The next one is building buildings. And when you build buildings, you're going to be paying 3 silver to do so. And it's very important to note that even though you're super excited about those second level buildings like I am, you have to build the level 1 buildings first. Next up on the rondelle is recruit. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about is on each of the map tiles, you'll see a C and a number. It is a code to say how many units can be on that particular tile. So you have to keep that in mind as you're recruiting and moving units out into the world. So based on the buildings you have in play will determine what types of units you can recruit. And as you get those bigger and better units, you're gonna have to spend some silver and you're gonna have to spend some tectonium to bring them out. So recruiting is gonna be key and you gotta keep an eye on how many things can be in a sector and so forth. So it's a really interesting aspect. I like how the map uses those areas so you have some limitations about how many troops you can have in there and so forth. And then you have move and attack. And then you have move and attack again if you pay some silver. And we'll take a closer look at what move and attack looks like. But those are going to be key actions as well. And then next up, you have the ability to upgrade one of your units. Swapping at a level 1 for a level 2 and then finally a level 3 card. You have to pay costs and so forth to do this, but that is a very powerful thing to get those bigger and better units in your hand. And obviously, you can't put those units into the field until you have the buildings in play, right? And then finally, we have tectonics. So this is the thing I really love about this game is that the world is ever changing. So you have to upgrade in the manner that it makes sense. So if you're going from water, you got to go to grasslands. You can't go straight to the mountains. And you can even downgrade. You can go from grasslands to water if you want to maybe cut off the route from your enemies, things like that. So, you know, it really is strategic how and when you terraform in this game. Now let's take a closer look at move and attack. When you move, you don't always have to attack, but movement allows you to take every unit in a sector and move it. Now, as you're moving through areas in that sector, you can move as many units through there, but it's where you end up and how they fan out is key. Now, things to note about movement is that at the top of your unit cards will show the movement value. So for your archers and for your main warriors, they're going to be moving 2. For your beasts, and your riders are moving 3, and then finally for your monsters like the tree, I love the tree so much, they're moving 1, so they're obviously slower, but they're bigger and more powerful and so forth. So you're gonna be looking at those cards and their movements that are available as you fan out across the area. Now, if you choose to attack, you have to be attacking in one adjacent area, not like a whole sector or anything like that. So when you do battle up against another opponent, you gather the cards of the units that you're going to be battling with. And on these cards, you'll see various types of dice that you're going to be rolling based on the level they are, any rerolls you might have, and any shields that you might have based on those types of cards that might come up as you've leveled them up, so to say. So for your basic warriors, as you get them to level 3, they're going to be bigger and more powerful. If you take a look at the dice that are available to you and so forth. So it is just simply a battle back and forth, but there's so many different dice results. So a closer look at your battle card, again, you see across the top its movement and the color indicates what type of unit it is. On the right will determine what level the card is, and at the bottom on the left are the symbols that you'll be using in the battle and the dice you'll be using, rerolls that might happen. You might get some pluses with strikes with the axe and things like that. So it just depends on the type of unit. But on the right, it shows you the cost of the unit as well as the distribution of the symbols of the dice you'll be rolling. So it gives you some clues up front what you might achieve in those dice rolls. So what you're looking for here on the dice faces is strikes. Obviously, you've got axes and you've got arrows for hitting, but you also have a dice that gives you 2 axes for a double hit, which is fantastic. Any shields obviously is blocking incoming damage. You also have a retreat icon, so you can pull back from the battle. Or you might have a recruit icon, which brings more units into the battle, which is fantastic. And then finally, my favorite is panic. If you roll this, you can cause your enemy to panic and run out. So as you can see, there's all kinds of different results and combos and how you best use those dice in combination with your battle cards in order to attack and take out your enemies. At the end of the battle, it's important to determine who the winner is. Based on the number of units that are still left from the battle, whoever has the most is going to be the winner. And the thing here is that you're going to get a conquest card. You'll be placing it in front of you. One of the main things you can do with the conquest card is spend it to upgrade one of your unit cards to level 2 and then level 3 eventually and so forth. So that's where I like to use them for sure, as you make your army bigger and more powerful. Then once all players have taken all their actions, it's time to move to the next step where the world starts to terraform or transform. Tectonic plates are moving. I love this aspect of the game. Really changes up. Now in the previous round, you'll have set out some tokens based on cards that were drawn, and each player will get 2 cards, and you'll be setting out your tokens based on the area as well as what level of terraforming that will happen based on what that particular area is currently. It could be water, so you're moving up to grasslands, or it could be mountains and it's moving down to grasslands. And you'll set the appropriate side of your token to show the appropriate color so you know what's coming up in that next round. And you will terraform everything that has tokens on it. And then again, you'll draw those cards and set up for the next round. So it's really that simple. And then the end of the round, you're simply removing your tokens from your rondel to show that you're clearing all the different actions you've played, and you'll be collecting silver from all the areas that you occupy. So it does help you set up for the next round. So those are the basics around what you'll be doing. Every round of the game will look pretty much the same, except that the world will be ever changing, which is really a big part of the fun, I think, in this game. And also, you know, you're after those objectives to get victory points and so forth. And after the end of the final round, you hope to have the most victory points and be the ultimate chieftain of Nerthania. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, at the time of posting this video, the campaign is already funded, but definitely go check it out because there's a lot of neat things about this game, and they've really put a lot of heart into it as they've developed it over the years and so forth. I really found that to be impressive. And, you know, I really like, I can't say it enough, I love the aspect of the world changing and the big monsters and stuff you get to put into the game and employ. And in the final game, they'll have custom meeples that match the different ones for the different tribes, which is really cool. So I really like the decisions, how you have to make some tough choices about which actions you're going to perform and how you get ready for that terraforming for each of the rounds for sure. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.